Welcome to the Better Agent Podcast. If you're a real estate agent that's looking to grow your business, then you're in the right place. Whether you want to go from 5 to 10 transactions a year, or 10 to 50 transactions per year, or more, well then this show is for you. I'm Josh Lavik, your host for the Better Agent Podcast, and in each episode, we'll bring you the tools, tips, and tricks directly from myself and some of the best leaders within the real estate industry. We have one goal in mind, and that's to boost your production and elevate your real estate game. Let's dive in and start creating a better real estate experience together. Welcome back to the Better Agent Podcast. On our shows, we are having conversations about growth in your real estate business. So if you're an agent looking to grow your business, maybe you're at 5 transactions, wanting to go to 10 or 10 to 20 or 20 to 40 or more, that's what this conversation is going to be about. And I am here to share a little bit more about my background over the past 20 years as a real estate agent and as a real estate investor and a team leader and that kind of thing. And also have wonderful guests, and I'm excited to talk to every single one. Today, we've got a great guest with you all, Juliana Van Eck, who is a great agent, also actually similar market to mine, but I won't steal too much of her story. But Juliana is a great guest, a great agent, and has definitely some great insights that she could share. And with that, I'll let maybe Juliana give a brief intro about herself and her background and what she's been able to do so far.
Thanks, Josh. I'm excited to be here. Excited to hear a little more about you. Likewise, my story as a real estate agent started in about 2019. So I originally have more corporate background. And ironically enough, when I was pregnant with our 4th child, I was looking to do something a little more intellectually engaging for a little bit. And so a friend of mine who ran a real estate team was looking for an admin that could work from home about 10 or 20 hours a week. And so I reached out to her and said, hey, I think this would be great. At the time, I was homeschooling our kids. I tutored, and I just wanted to have a little more of that professional experience again. And so she really encouraged me to go and get a license, forget about this admin gig, and just come sell homes. And, to be honest with you, selling real estate is something I've always wanted to do. I've had great passion for design. My dad built homes when I was growing up. So I was always in a business in one area or another. But when we moved to Madison in 2008, we were brand new. We didn't know anyone. So I honestly just didn't know how I would enter the business. And I think I didn't ask enough questions, or I didn't search hard enough. And so I just put it on the back burner. And so when my friend encouraged me to get a license, here I'm looking at myself 4 months pregnant, I thought, well, how am I going to possibly do that? But thankfully, she was a mom of 4 as well at the time, and she also homeschooled. So she was a phenomenal resource to me and kind of walked me through the things they tried, things that worked, things that didn't. And so long story short, I decided to take the plunge. I got my license and I started in real estate when my youngest was 6 months old. And I never looked back. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's been just a great, rewarding career. It can be intense and demanding, I'm not going to lie, especially the first years, but it is so well worth it.
Wow, that's quite a story. Holy cow. I think you enter in a lot of similar stories, right? Like some people, it's kind of interesting. I think real estate is one of those career paths that, you don't necessarily like. A lot of people I talk to, right? They don't necessarily choose. It's like real estate chooses them almost, right? It's like you almost fall into it and you're like, think about it for a while and then just decide at some point to take the plunge, as you say, right? And just kind of go for it. Yeah. And that's, and that's an interesting pathway, right? And because I think there's also an interesting way, a lot of agents, they join and they can just get licensed and go sell right away. But becoming an admin is absolutely a good career path for a lot of people as well, right? Like you can be either part-time or full-time admin. You can work for a real estate agent or a real estate office, work that 10 to 20 hours part-time. That type of a role is going to be usually more of a, an hourly rate or a W-2 type of employee, which is maybe more in line with what most of corporate America is used to. But, many agents coming into the industry, it's a totally different world. You're a usually 1099 independent contractor and commission-based only salesperson, right? You only get paid when you close a house, when you sell a house. So that's a totally different world that a lot of people aren't used to and aren't willing to take that plunge, take that next step. And it can be scary and it can be hard. But I remember early on and not really sure if I wanted to go into real estate either. I mean, I think I had a part-time bartending job and I was kind of selling real estate on the side. And while I figure out what I wanted to do next, well, then, it was after about a year, maybe a year and a half, that I decided and took the plunge mentally and said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's go for it, right? Like, let's not play halfway. Let's not go part-time anymore. Let's go for it, right? Because the one thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well, is the most successful agents in this career, in this business, they're not part-time. No, they're not part-time. Okay. So if you're serious about it and you want to make the kind of serious income that's available to you as a real estate agent and grow your business, like, it takes full on 100% dedicated commitment. And if you do that, well, I just heard from you before, right? Like, you made that commitment and you decided and you never turned back. And it's just been a very rewarding career ever since. So,
and honestly, I'm not going to lie, it was scary because for me, entering real estate meant, because we were homeschooling our kids and we wanted to continue homeschooling. And for me as a realtor, it made sense because, when your kids are at school from 8 to 4 and then they have activities, and most of us realtors work in the evenings and on the weekends, you don't see them very much. So homeschooling kind of allowed me to have that morning time, which was more protected. And then I could go, about my business and they could go do their activities and whatnot. But it also meant that I needed to hire a full-time nanny. So I really had to make my decision if I was going to do this and do it 100% and do it well, or if I was going to just kind of dabble on the side. But I can't imagine my runway to getting off the ground would have been so long. So I'm really glad I decided that. You're smart, you evaluate, you make a plan, but at some point you just have to burn the boats and not go back.
Burn the boats, take off. It's totally like an airplane, right? I mean, I remember hearing that analogy when I first got started years ago. And I think I couldn't agree more with that analogy, right? Like, if you're just kind of puttering along, you are not going to take off this airplane. And it is not. You're gonna start and you're gonna start to take off, and then you're not gonna make it. Ooh, you're gonna have to slow way back down and try it again, so that you can get enough thrust and lift off, because it takes effort that first couple years for sure. When taking off, that's for sure. So,
and honestly, I don't know about you, but I hate being new at something and not being good. I have this obsessive need to excel. So when you start as a new realtor, there is so much you don't know. I mean, I didn't know what septic system was, right, when I got my license. So
I mean, you passed your test. You obviously know everything then, right? No, that's not the case, right?
You know how not to get sued, but you don't really know much about the practical element of real estate. So I read lots of books. I did my research, but I immersed myself in it, and I didn't sleep much the first 2 years, I'm not going to lie, but I wanted to get as many transactions under my belt to gain as much experience as possible so that I could finally be comfortable and confident with what I was doing and not just faking it.
Yeah. That's such a great point. We had an agent on our team joined us about a year ago, and I think it's been about a year, and it's her first ramp up was kind of tough, and getting started, but she's just now starting to develop more of that confidence that you're talking about. And, and I remember it early on too. I mean, I was first licensed, I was 26 years old. I'd never even owned a home before. Who's going to trust me with their real estate? Like that was my own inner dialogue, my own self-talk, and it held me back more than anything. I had to overcome that. I had to build that confidence. I had to gain my knowledge. I had to do the research. I had to go to classes. I had to read more books. I had to go to seminars and learn from others and get a mentor and all those things that you got to do to succeed if you want to succeed, right? Otherwise, I mean, I guess I could have just given up and done something else, but I didn't do that, but I think if you're committed and to excellence and achievement and growth, then you will find a way to make it happen and gain that confidence and gain that exposure and get that
100%.
Knowledge. Yeah, for sure. No, I think so. I have kids, but I was never a stay-at-home parent, never stay-at-home dad type of thing. what was that like? I mean, I know we have, some of our listeners, might also have kids, and like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you balance just dealing with the kids' needs versus, client needs? Because client needs, right? They saw this property and they want to go see it right now. How do we, I want to write an offer, and offers are due tomorrow. What do you got to do?
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
I love your question. And I'm gonna pick at something you said just a minute ago, the word balance.
Yeah.
That was my trap when I first started, because you hear people talk about balance a lot. And I really struggled because I could not find it. It was not attainable for me until, I literally used to joke that I felt like a clown juggling a bunch of balls, right? Trying to not drop anything. That was my analogy as opposed to achieving balance. But again, keeping in mind, I joined real estate. I had 4 kids aging 0 to 10. So I had a baby and a toddler and an 8 and a 10-year-old. So we were pretty busy. And then my business partner and mentor, Tina Call, said one time, there is no such a thing as balance when you're starting a business. Balance is a myth. Balance equals broke. And so the reality is truly that we are juggling many balls. And what you're constantly doing is you are moving some things forward and you're catching some things, right? Keeping them from dropping. And so, especially in today's market where a listing comes in the market, and late last night I had offers coming in. I had full schedule today. My sellers have work. So you have to fit things in as you can based on your deadlines, which you can't always predict. Similarly, as you use the example of house comes on the market, well, within 6 hours, it can have an offer. So you better hustle over there and show it to your clients. That's your duty, right?
I mean, if you want that business and you want that opportunity, because, that's interesting. I hear, that business and that lead, that opportunity, it doesn't always just go away. It'll go to someone else. If you're not going to be willing to move or take action on it, it'll go to the next person. Yeah. And
so what I really learned to evaluate is, juggling these different balls is which ones are rubber and which ones are glass. So if I drop one, is it going to drop and shatter and I'm not going to be able to recover, right? Just like you said, is that client going to eventually get fed up with my unavailability and go to someone else, right?
Yeah.
Or am I going to suddenly miss out on 5 years of my kids' lives because I wasn't available at all? So which ones are going to shatter and I won't be able to recover, and which ones are rubber? Which ones will bounce back up? And so you learn to really prioritize. And that's probably the best way. Yeah. And then secondly, too, as a mom or a dad, it goes really for parents, either way, delegation. And this, when other moms entering real estate talk to me and ask me, how in the world can you sell so many homes a year with 4 little kids at home? I have to delegate. It's hard for me because I'm such a perfectionist, and that traps me because I think I have to do everything to do it right, which is not true, right? So I've learned to realize which
And just for our listeners, how many homes roughly are you selling per year or on average, or what
so my first 2 years in real estate, I really kind of threw myself in. I don't have the exact count for my first year. I want to say it was like around 30. And my second year in 2020, I sold 50 homes.
Nice.
And so this is where my kids were the age 1 through 11. And so then it kind of faded down a little bit. So now I stick around 50, but I have higher price points. And again, just a different season of life. So that was by choice. And now I'm working towards ramping that up again a little bit because I'm able to. But the delegation is huge because there's so many tasks I don't have to do for them to be done even well, sometimes even better. So, if you don't have to clean your home and you can have someone come do it for you, if you don't have to do your laundry, like these are the things my mom mind, right? If you don't have to drop off that Supra box at the door, all these miscellaneous tasks that tend to clutter our schedule, someone else can do them and do them just as well. But the things that I have to do every single day,
but they still need to get done. So so delegation, how do you delegate that? Who does that for you? What do you do? How does that work?
So you find people that you like and you trust. Right. You train them and then you pay them. Sadly, you have to pay them, but that's okay
them.
because,
Makes sense.
I can spend 4 hours cleaning my house and it's not going to look very clean at the end of it. I can spend 4 hours looking for new business and I'll probably get a listing that will sell. And I have just paid
for
the cost of a housekeeper for a long time.
There you go.
So you have to look at it with a little more long-term vision, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Totally. I think I couldn't agree more. I think delegation is one of those things that when you're brand new and you're just starting out, you don't even think about it, right? You're just thinking, how do I find the next client? How do I find the next sale, the next house? Like when you're brand new, you have no business. You're probably not ready to delegate. You're probably not ready to hand things off yet. But yeah, once you get to 20, 30, 40, 50 transactions, you can't do that many transactions just on your own and with your own help. Like you need to delegate. Like
correct.
You absolutely need either an assistant or hire housekeepers or runners, assistants. Absolutely. And I think, one of the things I heard years ago, and I still hear it repeated often today, right, is if you don't have an assistant, you are one. And so if, you're really managing multiple tasks, and if you think about, the highest dollar per hour activity that any real estate agent can do is getting on the phone and generating new business. So if you can 100%. Spend that 4 hours generating that new business, you can absolutely fund your other tasks, other duties, other things within your business. So, it was one of the reasons that in 2010 is when I kind of had made the decision to start our team. The Josh Lavik and Associates team is when that started around 2010, really just following that model as well, right? Because what I had noticed is that some of the best, agents and teams in the industry at that time, they were built around this team-based model. So you could have delegation and different roles and people could have their responsibilities, because I had started to notice that, if I just left it all up to me, then it's too easy to work 7 days a week. It's too easy to 100%. Just keep going and go. But if I wanted to, have that balance, have some time off and know that the clients are still being handled, the business is still being handled, that's, I think, where, you don't need a massive team to do that. Maybe you just need a small team. Maybe you need one or two or three other people to help you achieve your next goal. And I think for me, that's been huge, right? And I think if I were to shut down my business today, start over in a brand new market, I would hire help from day one.
So who would be your first hire if you did that? What kind of role would you hire?
Oh, yeah. So my first hire would absolutely be some type of administrative help, some type of, we have a pretty long checklist of everything we do for all of our listings. Every time we take a new listing, there's over 100, almost 200 things on our checklist. It's massive, right? But like you said before, I don't need to do all of those things. They all need to get done. They're all important, but I don't need to be the person that does them. And if my time is better spent, either on the phone or face-to-face with another potential client, that's where my highest value is as an agent. And so if I can hire somebody else to help with some of those administrative tasks, that's what I'm going to do from day one. So,
because there are certain tasks that no one can do but me, right? If my client hire me because they like me and they trust me, then I'm there at the listing appointment or at the buyer's appointment, right? I am there to negotiate offers. I'm there to negotiate inspections. I am there for them, obviously, but there are so many things in between that I don't need to be downloading and uploading documents. I don't need to be ordering closing. Like they're qualified admins that can do a lot of these miscellaneous tasks for you so that they can free up your time to do the things that are most important for your business, to make sure we have business tomorrow and not just today.
Yeah, business tomorrow, not just today. Because otherwise, what do we see? That kind of roller coaster of sales, which is kind of common in the real estate industry, right? We're recording this right now. It's March, it's spring. Okay, our spring market's picking up. Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. But then as soon as we have a closing, right, then it kind of goes down because maybe I'm not as consistent on my, lead generation, lead follow-up activities to keep that more consistent business. And so
100%.
The more you can do that, we'll keep you on track for sure.
And I think you nailed that. Consistency is a key for all of us, brand new or seasoned realtors, because so much success comes from simply participating in the market every single day. Talking to buyers, talking to sellers, talking to other colleagues, right? We really miss out on a lot when we kind of put our head down and get immersed in that one task we're on right now, that one listing or that one buyer. But our job, and one of the books that I read when I got into real estate, and I recommend this to every brand new agent, not because it's highly sophisticated, but because it's very real and raw and humorous, lighthearted, and you really need that when you're a brand new realtor, was Ryan Serhant's Sell It Like Serhant. And the reason I liked it was because it was so practical and so basic, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things he says is, as a business owner, you need to be the finder, the keeper, and the doer every single day. And on a good day, I truly stick to that. My finder hours are in the morning, and every new agent has to decide.
What does that mean, finder hours? What do you like? You're finding new business type of thing?
Right. So every realtor has to decide how they're going to find new business. There are multiple different avenues to do so, right? So you dedicate a certain amount of hours, maybe 2-3 hours every day, to finding new business. For some people, it's social media. So you can focus on content creation, meaningful content creation, right? For some people, it is reaching out to the people they already know. So their sphere of influence. For some people, it's prospecting, right? So cold calling. Usually the best way to obtain business this way is to target sellers. You could do open houses, right? But every day, plugging that finder element into your schedule so that you can find new business, you can follow up with people that you have already spoken with, and then you can follow back on regular basis with your past clients so they don't forget about you. And then you have your keeper hours. So for me, the keeper hours are usually midday, and this is where I'm looking over my current transactions, making sure that we're sticking to all the deadlines, we're not, dropping any balls, we have all the documents we need, and so on. And then the doer hours for me are usually afternoon, early evening. I ideally like to be done by 5. I do work with mostly sellers. Sometimes I have more flexibility as a mom, that's worked really well for me. But as a doer, you go out, obviously you meet with buyers, you go to listing appointments, maybe you host an open house, right? You take buyers to showings, whatever it may be. Those are your 2 hours. And even if you only devote 1 hour a day to each activity, that consistency is what is going to bring success. That's what moves your needle forward. Sometimes we think intensity will win for us, but that's not true. We really need to practice our craft every single day, even if it's little by little, in order to succeed in the long run.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, I've followed a similar schedule. I've not heard those words, though, the finding, keeping, and doing. I haven't heard it phrased that way, and I haven't really checked out Ryan's book. I'm going to have to add that.
You should. It's fun.
I got a whole bunch of other books on the shelf, and I've read a bunch of them, but I haven't read Ryan's yet, so I'll have to check that out. But I have followed a similar schedule myself, as I do typically, I'm exactly that, right? Spending 2 to 3 hours is my morning, typically lead gen time. I'm on the phone, making calls, trying to follow up with opportunities. Then kind of midday, take care of a couple meetings, other business things. And then ideally, in the afternoon, I'm out on appointments, either meeting with potential buyers, potential sellers, or potential agents that may be interested in talking about our team and what we offer and that type of thing. So it just kind of varies, but I've learned over time to not beat myself up if I don't hit that every single day, right? Like it doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, that's maybe, an ideal model to follow. And I totally agree with that. But if I can get that, 80% of the time, that's a win. Totally.
100%.
That's a win. Yeah.
And one of the things to recognize as a parent, and I'll circle back to, usually the questions I get asked is being a mom and selling real estate. People used to say we all have the same amount of minutes every day. And while I agree with that, that is true. We also have different competing priorities every day. Yeah. So, a single individual with no dependents is going to have different priorities competing for their time. Their schedule is going to depend more on their discipline and time blocking than anything else, where if you are a parent, there are certain needs that are urgent and you can't delay, right? So if I have planned out my schedule and it's Wednesday and now I get a call from the nurse that my child is sick and has a high fever and I need to come and get them, I need to come and get them. No one cares what I've time blocked on my calendar. I'm suddenly
my calendar says I have to do something else right now. Nope, you got sick kid. You got to deal with that.
So now my schedule is derailed a little bit. But with that said, you learn to be flexible. You learn to work around the priorities. And so sometimes what works for me is front loading tasks. So early in the week, maybe I'll just double down on certain tasks and I really get done as much as I can, right? And so that's why I'm so careful to say, like, on an ideal day, this is what my schedule looks like, because I am choosing right now to be more present in my kids' life. And, that's going to change because they're getting older, but 100%. So I have tasks that I want to accomplish and need to accomplish, but at the same time, I'm willing to flex a little bit and catch up or move things around as need be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think that's the other thing I've done kind of naturally too. Maybe I mean, I've had definitely sick kids, don't get me wrong, but I think from the doing activity, if I don't have an appointment in the afternoon, maybe I need to spend a little extra time on the finding, right?
100%.
Maybe 2 to 3 hours wasn't enough. Maybe I need an extra hour or two to continue finding, to line up another appointment later in the week, or, something like that. Sometimes, you need to be able to make adjustments to that schedule, but I think it's important to do. So, what about, so I'm curious about, well, I know I'll reserve what I've done, but I'm curious about, from your perspective, other maybe key habits that you have incorporated into your schedule that you think really sets your day up for success, or your week, or what is it, outside of kind of those three: finding, keeping, and doing. What other maybe activities or habits have you followed that really moved the needle and really helped you in your success as an agent?
In terms of real estate activities?
In terms of, okay, well, maybe I'll go first and kind of share where I'm going with this, and then you can maybe share as well. But I'm just thinking more in terms of habits along the lines of, for me, and I did this kind of a long time ago, but just kind of setting up what I believe is an ideal day and an ideal week, right? Picture perfect, kind of, sketch it out. But so for me, exercise and fitness is super important. And so I'm at my best self when I make it to the gym or get a workout in or something. If I don't exercise, I'm just not as productive. I'm not as helpful. I'm not as patient. I'm not as, engaged. I'm not at my best self. So, making sure that I get that exercise. I've been pretty consistent on journaling and just reflecting back on my own activities and what were my wins and what did I achieve yesterday and the last week, and where have I been, right? Because sometimes I think it's easy to get focused on, the future of what you're hoping for, right? The gain and the desire. Oh, I want to sell 30 homes a year or 50 homes a year or whatever. But look at how far you've come. You came from zero, let's reflect on the win and celebrate that, and finding those key wins and celebrations every single day, because they show up every day. And so maybe it's business related, maybe it's not, but I think if I can find them in my business, but maybe I had a personal win. I mean, I was at my kids' ski race, a couple weeks ago, right? They're downhill ski racers. And that was a great day. I didn't sell a single home, but that nourished my soul. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And you need that time off, and you need that personal time, that, family, friends, whatever it is, that purpose that I think is going to drive you to want to achieve, because
100%.
So for me, I think it's just reminding myself on a regular basis about those activities. So
100%. Yeah. And I would very much echo that. Working out is a must for me. So right now, since January, my 16-year-old has been making me get up at 4:30 to go to a 5 a.m. workout, because that's what works with her college classes. And so
how's
that's
that
been phenomenal. The first 2 weeks were rough. I'm not going to lie. I can get up at 5 or 5:15, but 4:30, I don't know what it is about that half an hour. Stretches you a little more than you're used to. But it's been great, because very much like you said, it helps me to get the workout in early in the morning. You get your blood flowing, right? You feel better. And I honestly feel like, we work out at Burn Boot Camp in Verona, which is known for its intensity. And I feel like that is often the hardest part of my day. Getting up so early and getting that workout in is the hardest part of my day. And so I know that whatever else comes later is not going to be as hard as achieving that. So that's a must. I love, if I really need to clear my head, I love to take my dogs to the dog park.
Yeah.
I feel like the most important thing I can do for my business and my personal life is keep a positive mindset, very much like you said, right? Real estate is a beautiful business. It's a people business.
Yep.
And selling and buying homes is very stressful. And
Mhm.
so there is a lot of emotion you're managing all the time. Even the most sweetest and calmest and most level-headed people I work with have a moment of an emotional roller coaster because it just what happens. It comes with it. And so my goal is to be the grounding source, right? I don't get drawn into drama. Sometimes it's more between agents than clients, but there's just a lot of emotion involved in transactions. And so for me to be positive serves me best and my clients best because I can stay level-headed, I can stay calm no matter what happens. And we're problem solution focused, right? I don't get caught up in the hurdle at hand. I am focusing on, okay, how can we get us back on track? And with that said, I mean, I've kind of put together a list of books that I've read as a newer realtor that have really helped my mindset. And I would say, you know, there's a number of them. I'll just list a few and then I highlight some that I really liked. But, you know, anything from Atomic Habits, Start with Why, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Power of Habits, Think and Grow Rich, Miracle Morning, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Two probably of my most favorites are Never Split the Difference. So Chris Voss, who used to be the top FBI hostage negotiator, is phenomenal. And if you can download his book on Audible and listen to him read it, you're gonna love it. It's a fabulous tool for negotiations and communicating with people, especially in stressful situations. And then The Obstacle is the Way. And The Obstacle is the Way was great for me because I realized that there are going to be hurdles in our life, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I grew up thinking that if you are smart and you can set things up correctly and you can make the right decision, you'll not encounter hurdles, but that's nonsense because obstacles are going to be there. Sometimes it's self-imposed and other times they just happen. And so when we wake up every day, having our schedule, having a plan for the day, but anticipating there are going to be obstacles, we won't be thrown off by them. We're going to be able to take a lot more relaxed approach because we already knew it was going to happen, right? I'm not upset because someone cut me off at traffic or someone didn't deliver a document they were supposed to. Like, we knew this.
Well, I think that, you know, I love your list of books, first of all, because I've probably read all of those as well. And they're definitely on the top of my list. Highly recommend all of them as well. But I think about, you know, the obstacle is the way. And sometimes what's coming to mind is like a hard negotiation, right? Like, you know, you got to call your client. Maybe you got some bad news to deliver. Maybe you got, you know, an inspection that came back bad and like, oh, maybe you're weighed down by it and you're struggling. Like, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? What do? I don't even know what to say. Maybe you're even avoiding it, right? Like, well, maybe I'll just wait a little bit, wait until we get more information. And that's not the way. Is to go at it. You need to dive in, figure it out, and like deliver the bad news if you need to, you know. I mean, I think if, you know, letting bad news fester and like, you know, it's not going away. It needs to come to surface, right? So if you have, you know, a bad inspection or, you know, somebody missed a deadline or whatever, I think getting in front of that, right? That's, to me, that's going right at the obstacle. It's like going right at it and just saying, owning it and just getting in front of it and being a good communicator is absolutely important. So,
and you know, it kind of is what you make it out to be. And I think this is where I see a lot of realtors fail is we get so emotionally involved that our clients then feed off of our energy, right? When we call them and we're stressed and we're apologetic and we are, you know, worried, they sense that's not our job, right? We're the professional here. So one of the most important lessons my friend and my previous boss taught me was, what does the contract say? Take an objective approach, right? So even if you're negotiating an inspection or you're negotiating and things aren't going the way you want them to or you were hoping they would, stick to what the contract says and where does it take you. So we
Yeah.
could do X and the best result would be A, and the negative result could be B, or we could do Y, and here is the positive and here's the negative outcome. Which one do you want to choose? And that's honestly the approach I give to my clients, because it's not so much a bad news or good news. Like, it is what it is.
It is
And
what it is, right? You just need to share it. Yeah.
I do my best to set you up for success. I do my best. I truly go and I learn and I study and I practice negotiations, because to me, it's an art. But at the end of the day, I'm only one person, and real estate is a piece of many moving puzzles. And there are so many people involved. So there's so many things out of my control. At the end of the day, sometimes it is what it is. And here are our options. And which one are you most comfortable choosing? And we're going to work with that to the best of our ability. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, that's great. I love your list of books, because I've read seriously so many of those and I totally resonated with them. Actually, so I'll just give a plug too. The Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is 100% a must read for anybody in real estate. And it's, what I love about it too is that the concept that he talks about in the book of, you're not necessarily trying to win the argument, right? It's not about winning and getting them to say yes to your position.
Right.
You're trying to win the consensus between two people. Like you're going after the concept between two parties that say, yeah, that's right. That makes sense. I agree with that, conceptually. Right. And then from there, you can build a framework and build off of. But like, if you're not on the same page and on the same wavelength, like, you're just causing more friction, and need to really slow down in that sense and just hear them and hear where your client's at, where you're, even where the other agent's at, if you're trying to negotiate something or wherever it's at, I think
100%. I mean, one of the things Chris says on this topic is, if you have got as far as an argument, it's not about winning and losing at this point. Everyone lost. Everyone lost, right? That is never a point we want to get to. And so often people react a certain way, especially negatively, right? Because there is fear or there are unanswered questions. And this goes for stressful situations, but for us realtors, this goes to working with clients too. So always ask questions, because people will give you pushback, people will give you objections. There is a reason. There's usually an unanswered question in their mind, but they're not voicing it. So for us to pause and say, how do you want me to do this? Or why is this important to you, right? Helps us bridge the gap instead of going at it kind of head to head, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's an art and it's a skill but it can be learned, and I think it's great. And I think it's definitely coming from that place of just, willing to hear the other person from a non-defensive space, and not, how can you be as unattached to that outcome? Because I think our role absolutely is what you've talked about before, right? We are there to be grounded. We're there to be kind of that neutral party to help bring people through this stressful situation. I mean, it can be stressful. Absolutely. So,
And I think that's where sometimes, our expectations get in the way of our growth or success. Is earlier in our conversation, you mentioned expecting quick results, right? Like sometimes we start in real estate, or we start with a lead source, we venture into a new avenue, and then we expect results and success to show up right away. And that's just not the case. Like, there's no magic pill to success. We have to put in the work. So research, right? Research, learn how to do a certain thing, but then show up every day consistently, and don't focus on, okay, I spent X amount of hours looking for a new business this week, like I was supposed to, and I didn't set any appointments. Well, do it again next week, and maybe next week you end up setting 3 appointments in the same amount of time. Don't beat yourself up too much, as long as you are following a wise path, right, and proven path. You have to let the results show up for you and not quit, because you're not a loser unless you quit, right?
That's right. Keep going. I like it. I like it. Very cool. Oh man. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I feel like we could talk about all this stuff all day, but I don't know. We've been chatting for quite a while. Maybe, and maybe we should try to wrap things up, but I guess, before we do that,
Yeah.
I'll just open the floor one last time. If there's any last parting words or parting thoughts that you want to share with our listeners that are looking to, like I said, grow their business, any last minute thoughts on your mind that we haven't already talked about?
Yeah, I would say if you're looking to grow your business, whether are new or you've been in real estate for a while, I would encourage you to really think about how do you want to look for business, right? There are some people who never want to pick up the phone and cold call. So maybe prospecting isn't the way to lead generate for you. There
Yeah.
are some people who will never get in front of camera. So maybe Instagram or social media isn't going to be for you. So really think about what is it I'm willing to do,
Yeah.
and then research how to master that lead source. Find an agent, whether in your area or outside of your area, that already mastered it, and follow them and learn from them. So many realtors are delighted to mentor others. Like they'll open their books for you and just give you all the information, anything and everything you need, right?
Sure.
They're willing to give back. If they've succeeded in the industry, so many of them, they're eager to give back and help see others grow as well. Find a brokerage that will support you in the way you want to run your business. So do your research, ask the questions. But then I would encourage people to really stick to it consistently. And if it's not every single day, like every single week, because until you have truly mastered that one lead source, don't go looking for other things. Sometimes as realtors can get the shiny object syndrome where, well, I've tried open houses for 3 months and I didn't get any.
All these lead portals keep calling me and they want me to sign up.
I know. I'm going to sign up for Zillow, and I'm going to start posting Instagram videos, and I'm going to, do this and do that. And the reality, there are a lot of people out there that want your money, but you really have to focus on a certain way you want to build your business. And until you've mastered it, stick to one single lead source. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I love that concept, and I couldn't agree more. I've noticed it in myself and other realtors that I've noticed, right? They find a niche. They find something that they want to master, and they go super deep. Right. And, if they decide, I'm going to get expired listings, or they decide I'm going to try to capture as much business in this certain geographic area, it's like, it's up to each agent to decide for themselves. What do they want their niche to be? And then, do it every single day, every single week, and go after it every single time. Because if you do, that's where success ultimately will come from, because you will become known for that. You will become the expert in that area. You will become grown. And, it's easy to get distracted by the shiny objects, right? Because, well, I went to this seminar and I heard of this other agent that did this other thing. And then this other person did this other thing. And now I got to do 50 things. And then, I'm just overwhelmed. I don't think I can do anything. Oh.
Let's forget it all.
Forget it all. Oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah.
Throw it
100%.
away. Throw it back. Pick 2 or 3 things. Those are your focus, right? Pick one thing. That's your focus. And if you do that, I think then you'll be much more likely to be on the path of growth and achievement, and much more likely to be successful. So I totally couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I'm doing, trying to lean more into with both this podcast and just the growth and the trajectory of our business, is I am in a place now definitely looking to connect with other like-minded agents, kind of like yourself. And we do a mastermind. So, one of the things I'm also starting and promoting, go to realestateteammastermind.com. If you want to join us on a future call sometime, a future discussion, mastermind, growth around your business, you can go to that website and plug in some info, learn a little bit more about what we're doing. So, but yeah, I loved your takeaways, your insight. Definitely a lot of like-minded books and insights for both my business, I've noticed just in hearing more about your story. So I really appreciate you coming on our show today here, Juliana, and dropping some insight for our listeners.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun. Best of luck to you, Josh.
Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you so much. So, all right. Well, again, you're listening to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you guys found this episode helpful as you look to grow your real estate business, and wherever you're at on that path. I hope you got some value out of today's show. And if you want to continue that path, Tune in for next episode as well, and we'll continue to bring great guests like Juliana and share more about her story and other future guests as well. So thanks again. This is the Better Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lavik, and that's all there is for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Better Agent Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for more tips, Q&A sessions, and sneak peeks into our 21-day challenge. To get full access of our show notes and more details on the 21-day challenge, go to abetterrealestateexperience.com. Keep striving for greatness, and I'll see you on the next episode.